Jambur Zodan Himijan, Sonemonum Jimboring Diodo, Agradargon Zondo Sherman. Stomba Tujijan La Shomzer Lo, Nichin River Sailing Jangansa, Jawar Tujian Lo Yelman, Jimmy Gonzo Jan Soran, who going to get Toban Power Shinjir Lo.
To liberate sentient beings, please give rise to Supreme Bodhicitta. We are currently discussing in detail the application of suffering and happiness on the path as a topic of discussion today and also tomorrow. Wednesday, we will continue the teaching. We will keep going as planned without stopping until Thursday. I'm sure we'll finish. At the moment, I don't have any specific plan. We'll try to cover as much as we possibly can, so let's see how it goes. If we are able to finish, there are other teachings to discuss. If we can't complete everything that we set out to do, at this point in time, we'll just have to wait and see how things turn out. This application of suffering and happiness on the path is also very relevant to some of our ongoing current and present day when we encounter all sorts of unusual or extraordinary situations. This kind of practice may actually be even more practical. We study Madhyamaka, Abhidhamma, Buddhist logic, and laying a solid theoretical foundation is especially beneficial. Indeed, if we have studied the 5 great treatises, it helps dispel all kinds of wrong conceptual thoughts in our mental continuum. Because since beginningless time, each of us has deeply ingrained and persistent habitual patterns of delusion. After we come into this world, because of our environment, family, and education, and the influence of the friends around us, they influence us, and we become imbued with all sorts of different habitual tendencies. These directly impact our right view as well as our right conduct in a significant way. At such times, if within Buddhism, those teachings with more subtle reasoning, like Madhyamaka, Buddhist logic, and 5 great treatises, if we have studied them carefully and thoroughly, then whenever you give rise to any wrong thought or mistaken conceptual mind, you can immediately take up the weapon of wisdom. It becomes especially easy to cut off these incorrect views. If we lack such a foundation in our reasoning, then indeed everyone's habitual tendencies, everyone's afflictions are very severe. We may believe that our own personal views and perspectives are, in our opinion, correct and entirely reasonable, and so we might continue to follow such views. But if you actually possess some degree of right view in this regard, in fact, it becomes very easy to eradicate your own wrong views. Therefore, this point is especially important for younger Buddhists, as they are often at a stage in life where they are beginning to form their beliefs and develop their understanding of Buddhist teachings. I highly recommend studying very diligently the exoteric and esoteric scriptures, especially the 5 great treatises, because we are not able to focus on just one field of study. Of course, if there are some people who are perhaps especially confident in themselves or whose faith is extremely firm and unwavering, then specializing in Madhyamaka or a specialist in Pure Land or specializing in practical experience is not impossible. But for most people, our wrong views are certainly very strong. Moreover, the environment around us and our own mindset may change at any time, undergoing various shifts. At such times, using your discerning wisdom is extremely practical. Therefore, it is recommended, especially for some young people, that at that stage, your thinking is also relatively clear, and your reasoning and analysis skills are strong. Plus, you have all kinds of judgment skills and abilities as well too. But when you get older, as the years go by, day after day, when your mental faculties can be said to be insufficient, it becomes difficult to delve into the exoteric and esoteric scriptures. So therefore, at this point in time, we would like to suggest that some Dharma friends, ever since they were very little and young, originally had good intelligence, but have always either recited mantras or focused solely on practice. Just as Patrul Rinpoche has said, studying in old age and practicing in youth is actually really not very successful at all. Patrul Rinpoche also spoke on this. So for us who are perhaps older, if you want to study, it's hard. Some people with white hair all over and only one or two teeth left in their mouths, I will start learning Yinming. I am currently preparing myself to study Pramana. I still really want to. I have great confidence in Pramana. For people like this, in particular, if you study Pramana, when you finish learning, you might have lost all your teeth. Now, there's only, I have impression, back when we were in the small scripture hall, there was an elderly Buddhist known for his calm demeanor and gentle wisdom who lived quietly and peacefully in a small village, who looked compassionate. And he started to study Pramana with only a single remaining tooth left in his mouth. And right next to that particular tooth in his mouth, I noticed that his tongue appeared to be an especially vivid and striking. For such a person to study Pramana, his success is unknown. That's one aspect. Some young people should have quite good wisdom, but they just keep reciting Om Mani Padme Hum repeatedly. So is this. Of course, reciting mantras is definitely very good. Some time ago, I met a Lama in his 60s. His memory is exceptionally good. He is a Lama from our region. He said, I have some regrets. When I was young, I didn't really study the 5 great treatises thoroughly. At the time, I thought my actual practice was quite good. Never studied it. If I had studied them, I wouldn't be here now. However, he's a very accomplished practitioner. If one could be like him, well, I think that's also perfectly fine. But at the very beginning, he didn't take this path, but went straight into actual practice. Some people start practicing directly from a young age. Some succeed. They're extremely rare. For most people, especially many of you in the past society, in the previous environment, the various kinds of defilements and influences were quite strong. For people like this, having broad knowledge and learning is extremely important. This is just a brief mention of the situation regarding the study as it currently stands. Today, we will continue right here as planned, turning suffering and happiness into the path. What have we already discussed earlier, previously? We talked about praying to the 3 jewels, praying to the Dharma protectors, and even praying to spirits and ghosts. If your own mental strength is not particularly strong or especially resilient at this time, you should pray and hope that the 3 jewels will bless you so that suffering and happiness, especially suffering, can be transformed and used on the path. For example, pray to Manjushri Bodhisattva, pray to Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, pray to your Guru and the 3 jewels, asking that all your suffering be transformed and used on the path and not become an obstacle to your practice. Pray in this way. If our mental strength can become even just a bit more stable, steadier, and more resilient, or if we have gained a certain degree of confidence, what should we do at that time? At that time, we should sincerely pray to the 3 jewels and also pray to the spirits and deities. You can say all the unpleasant things, whether it's illness, suffering, or hardship. May they all, each and every one of them, come upon me. Of course, this is truly a tremendous challenge. Most of us practitioners probably wouldn't dare to say this. Mentioned yesterday, this is the spirit of Western hippies, a kind of behavior that is antisocial or considered to be against established traditions and unconventional in nature. Does it have a deeper meaning? Absolutely, without a doubt. Because originally, as Buddhists, we were also very afraid and kept praying, practice goes smoothly, no suffering, no obstacles. But if we do this, will obstacles really not come? Not necessarily. When obstacles are meant to come, they will come. When suffering is meant to come, it will come. So instead, if these obstacles don't come, that's best. But if they do come, at least we are prepared. If they come, then let them come. There's really nothing I can do to stop them anyway. If you can't stop it, I can face them with strength. And perhaps when such obstacles and suffering arise, from a temporary perspective, they seem cruel, harsh, and unpleasant to me. But maybe because of their arrival, my practice will actually benefit. So at such times, we should consider things from both perspectives. This is very important. If we do this, then it's also acceptable. On the surface, it may seem unpleasant, but in reality, its arrival is beneficial for our body. Just like in the worldly realm, as mentioned earlier, bitter medicine, though sometimes unpleasant to us, is actually quite helpful for curing illness. Some foods may seem especially unappetizing or taste bad to us, but in fact their taste, indeed, and all their qualities, if we get used to them, we can certainly accept them. So in our process of cultivation, this is a truly unique and remarkable new kind of challenge. We talked about this, and food. The other day, we mentioned durian. Some of our Khenpos, he simply didn't see the smelled durian, became worried that there was something unclean on themselves, and kept checking their clothes, wondering if maybe when they went to the restroom, something had accidentally gotten on them. I remember when I went to Singapore, a Singaporean Dharma teacher, he likes to eat durian. He lives next door. I was in the room on this side, and sometimes lay practitioners would bring me durian, which I would give him to eat, but I would close my door. Even so, my room felt smelly. In the quiet, dark middle of the night, I would slowly get up and desperately, carefully close the door. Some things really are like this. Even suffering is like this. For some people, suffering can't be made useful on the path. This even includes some of the foods we have now. Some Dharma friends especially really love eating stinky tofu, but I've tried it a few times myself. And every time, as soon as I get close to that smell, I really just honestly can't handle it. So for now, at this point in time, I think it might be a bit difficult for me. Many say delicious. Do you want to try some? But I still don't have the courage when it comes to turning my suffering into the path. If I can't turn stinky tofu into path, maybe suffering becomes the path. Really is a new kind of challenge to face. But for some of us, as long as we get used to it, what seems like a huge hassle to others, if you're really used to it, our mind actually plays a very significant role. If your mind genuinely and truly likes that particular kind of taste, then you can do it too. It's very hard at first, but gradually you can accept it. It's just like with moxibustion or surgery, accepting it at the time was very difficult. But if you know that after it's done, it benefits you, you grit your teeth and endure, you might even begin to think, perhaps after this surgery, it will be really good for my body. So I have to keep enduring it, different values. Perhaps I see a lot of young people with various things drawn on their bodies. I mean, getting tattoos, right? Peacocks, world famous celebrities, legendary sports stars, all together, all drawn right here. Some people have butterflies or tigers inked here. A lot of people do this. When I see them getting tattooed, they look like they're really, really suffering too. In places like Thailand or like in Yunnan province, this is quite common. But since they enjoys this, they see it as a kind of spirit. If I have an elephant or a tiger here, it's a symbol of being a hero. So when they think about this value, no matter how much it hurts, they can endure it. There are physical ways. Some ways we challenge ourselves physically. But do we have similar methods for our minds? Yes, we do. It may seem very hard to accept, but if you do accept it, it can actually be very beneficial for you. So this method of transforming suffering into happiness, its main essential core meaning, let us accept the pain together. When you truly accept suffering, not only do you not feel unhappy, in fact, you might even find yourself feeling genuinely joyful. Sure, this sense of joy It really is quite a bit difficult at first. As discussed yesterday, no matter when, we should always maintain a sense of joy and confidence. We mentioned this earlier as well. No matter what happens, please don't disturb your joyful and peaceful mind. Any situation encountered, don't let it simply disrupt your happiness. It's a bit hard to do, but actually it's very relaxing. I mentioned this when I was speaking. This way fine, that way fine. If it rains today, that's fine. If it doesn't rain today, that's also fine. If I have money today, that's fine too. Money lets accumulate merit. If I don't have money, that's also fine, because I can still practice truly good, pure letting go and genuine, wholehearted detachment. I've absolutely spent all of my money for the entire past month. This too is indeed very pure for me. If you're healthy, that's also totally fine. With good health, I can do more good deeds. If my health is poor, I can also use this suffering to help me feel the suffering of all sentient beings. Indeed, sometimes our own minds, when they undergo a rather unique change, gradually gain a deeper and more profound understanding of the true nature of samsara. Usually, life is just plain and ordinary like this. And maybe, just maybe, we don't really have much courage. Just like in the past 10 or 20, everyone has food, clothes, and every day is like this. But it seems that in everyone's life, there isn't much feeling or awareness. But once you can't go out, you can't even go out to buy groceries these days. Might run out of rice. That day, probably during the pandemic, I remember many people suddenly locked down the city. All of a sudden, you couldn't leave your home. If you couldn't go out, then a little bit of fresh vegetables felt especially precious to many people. A few kilos of rice, how many kilos do you have left? As long as you have rice, it really doesn't matter if you don't have anything else. At this time, what do these changes in your life make you realize? Some new concepts that you had never realized before, and the reasoning behind these underlying concepts should be very profound and can remain vivid in memory for a long time. On the surface at that time, that way of living for many people seemed rather harsh at times, but in reality, because of it, issues you had never thought about before, questions about life, about living, understanding material and sentient worlds, all of these experiences, in all these aspects, you gain a new understanding. Of course, there are some fools who are everything. When things pass right in front of them, they remain completely indifferent to everything. For some people, skills to think and analyze after going through such extraordinary experiences, you will truly gain within yourself some new knowledge that you never had before. So in life, sometimes it seems something truly extraordinary is happening right now. For you, it was hard to bear at the time, but after it passes, in the end, it depends on how you face it. If during this disaster you collapse and fall apart, then perhaps you have simply, after all, made the choice of a fool, nothing more. But if even when you find yourself right in the middle of everything, surrounded by difficulties and challenges, but even at that moment, treat it as a valuable opportunity, use it to reflect, then perhaps you will gain something that you could never get in ordinary times. You may come to realize new insights or gain new understanding about yourself or the world around you in unexpected ways. We note that no matter when, maintaining a confident mindset, whether we can do this is what people wonder. Indeed, it is difficult to achieve when we are happy, when the weather is good and everything is going well. But occasionally something happens, something is near us, or something happens to us personally. Powerful, overwhelming waves of pain and deep, relentless turmoil begin to slowly, steadily surge in our hearts, and as a result, many unpleasant things occur. Of course, for us ordinary people, this is in fact completely normal. Happiness, suffering, unstable. This is a normal phenomenon. We shouldn't become discouraged because of this. I have no hope now. Studying Buddhism is useless. Practicing is pointless. My afflictions are so severe. My discriminating mind, everything is ultimately nothing, thinking unreasonable. With this mindset, all the effort we've put in before, much of our previous effort would be wasted. You can't generalize like that. Everything is utterly meaningless. We should view from multiple perspectives. During analysis, things result from past karma or the various causes and conditions of this life, which lead to abnormal depressive states of mind. But there are also things where there is still room for effort. So if we have wisdom, he is interested in everything with a more detailed and nuanced analysis. This is also very necessary, especially for, this is a recap of what we discussed earlier, the remaining content from yesterday's previous class that we discussed together during our lesson. Let's see if we have, just in case I don't know recently. You have sincerely prayed for the Dharma protectors to help dispel negative conditions. If you have, that's also very good, which is really excellent, actually. Or maybe it doesn't matter, since theory is theory. I don't really mind these things either. Maybe that's just how it is. Now, when it comes to study and practice, it is also crucial to meditate in seclusion, away from distractions. People say that in a chaotic environment, how can one endure illness as well as contempt and verbal abuse? Being influenced by the bad habits of negative friends and the various psychological burdens and pollution from dealing with both enemies and loved ones, one will become restless, lose their sense of direction, and what else? Being distracted by various external factors, drawn by circumstances. This section is also very important. First, what do we need to talk about? First, we need to learn the method of transforming suffering and happiness into the path. So, how do we actually learn this? You must leave behind chaotic environments. Whether it's the city, the crowds, or any kind of environment, only then can you truly practice. If you haven't left such especially noisy, scattered, and bustling environments, it's actually very difficult to practice. As a beginner, first choose a relatively quiet place. Best if you have some monastery or center far from city bustle, or a forest retreat, a quiet place. Ideally, if that's not possible, then within your own city, try to minimize distractions as much as possible and practice contemplation on your own. This is actually very important. We also hope that everyone here, since after all, as you know, you are all beginners. At first, you're on one side among the crowd, and at the same time want to practice well. I'm afraid it will be quite difficult. If you have some favorable conditions, it's best to do a retreat to complete your Ngondro practice, or to do some meditation practice. This is really necessary. If in Buddhism, we only get attached to theory, whether you talk about the 5 great treatises and everything sounds really very impressive. Your explanations are dazzling and sound great. But when it comes to actual practice, if you have never done any meditation, then when the time comes, when you need to transform suffering and happiness into the path, it will all remain just theory. And in the end, it will be meaningless. Therefore, no matter how many days you have studied in total so far, even if it's only for just a little bit of time, it's still best to make meditation a regular habit. For example, the very simple practices of contemplating the preciousness of human life in our Dzogchen teachings, these are fundamental practices. But the teachings given by someone who has never meditated and those given by someone who actually has meditated are quite different, completely different in terms of real depth and experience. So it is truly necessary for us to actually practice. Actual practice, especially in Han Buddhism, as it is commonly observed. Indeed, there were individuals who lived in huts or caves to practice in solitude, and there were some who participated in group meditation. Group meditation in Han Buddhism is very good. Everyone sits in meditation together, and when meditating together, there is just someone called the manager, right? Wait, not the manager. What is it called? Who holds the incense board? You're talking about a disciplinarian, right? In many traditional ceremonies, the disciplinarian is the person who maintains order and ensures that everyone follows the rules. He holds the incense board, he watches for people who fall asleep, or if someone is not behaving properly, smack at that very special moment when someone is truly blessed with the incense board. Some people are able to cut off their discriminating thoughts and attain enlightenment on the spot. There are indeed such stories in the history of Mahayana Buddhism. Actually, this method should be very effective. Many of our Dharma teachers also often encourage this. Sometimes everyone comes together to quietly meditate. At first, it might feel a bit unfamiliar, but gradually, over time, the benefits and blessings gained from this are tremendous. Why was it that during the Tang, Song, and Ming dynasties, there were so many Chan masters and accomplished practitioners at that time? When we examine the biographies of eminent monks from the Tang, Song, and Ming dynasties, we can see from these biographies that there were many practitioners at that time. Among them, some attained enlightenment and realization. In fact, they put real effort into their practice. If we put effort into our practice, surely indeed many states of realization will arise. In Tibetan Buddhism, we have similar group meditation practice where everyone practices together. At the very beginning, there should be some monitors who can remind everyone and provide a bit of guidance as needed. Gradually, you will naturally develop a habit. For 5 great treatises, in classroom becomes habitual practice. Although at that time, we couldn't sit long, but we still absolutely need this kind of meditation. This meditation, if you get used to it from a young age, it's even better. We see some young Buddhists, their meditation is actually quite adorable. Some are from different countries, different places. Young monks or young students, such as novices, when they meditate, some children just simply fall asleep. If you have this meditation practice from a young age, habits we form in childhood, any habit, any behavior will directly and profoundly influence your entire life. This includes how some parents in particular educate and guide their children on a daily basis. Sometimes they should simply let them meditate. If the child is disobedient, punish them by making them meditate 2 hours. This might actually be a pretty good approach. Here, it first says practicing without noise and distractions is important. Why do we say this? In chaos, suffering is unbearable. It's hard facing slander. Many people, friends, relatives, or enemies, as well as all kinds of material enjoyments. For us ordinary people, it's easy to be swayed by external circumstances. External circumstances are tempting. On top of that, our minds as ordinary people are particularly fragile. At times like this, it's likely that though you intended to practice hard, it becomes very difficult to persist. That's why it's better to first practice in a relatively suitable environment. This includes our great Mahayana practitioners who have actually practiced in various different environments. And it's not just in Buddhism, but also in the secular world. For example, well-known athletes nowadays, those who have won gold or silver medals, and so on, including swimming champions and the like. In fact, before achieving that, they also worked extremely hard, including his own home, special environment. Train yourself and reach a point. He started talking to other people, whether participating in international competitions or domestic competitions, before they had put in a lot of effort. So for us as Buddhists, if you truly want to transform suffering into the path, enter crowds. If you stay distracted, constantly busy, mingling with others, always socially interacting and engaging in conversations, not serious and superficial, then you can't learn. It's impossible. You can't make suffering the path. Even if you are in some Dharma center or in a Buddhist college or monastery, in front of some Dharma king, Khenpo, or great monk, and you've stayed there for many years, here 10 years, 8 years, or even 20 years, but when you encounter suffering, because your study hasn't been deep, hasn't gone in depth. Of course, there are some who study deeply. If you study very deeply, even if the time spent is short and less teachings received, but the learning is especially solid, and what's learned in this way can be ingrained through practice. And if you practice deeply, your mental strength will change in a short period of time. Buddhist teachings will definitely, without a doubt, change absolutely everything about you. So when we first start out, right at the very beginning, when everything is just getting started, it's not suitable to be among large crowds of people. In a relatively quiet environment, naturally, as a result, in most cases, there will be beneficial and supportive conditions for your practice, making it easier and more effective overall. Place without defilements and distractions, without the mind becomes very clear. As a result, the mind becomes easier to direct. When you are in a quiet place, without distractions, mind is pure. Difference here. When we are in a noisy environment such as a busy street, however we try to practice or recite, there is no benefit at all. But if you go to some quiet places, those blessed by great masters of the past, such as Guru Padmasambhava, or the places blessed by lineage masters, once you arrive there, naturally, your mind will settle down on its own. 37 practices Bodhisattva. In a quiet, peaceful, and calm place, afflictions subside, virtue increases, the mind becomes focused on Dharma. So let's stay away from the hustle and bustle and carefully avoid unnecessary distractions, remaining focused and attentive as is taught in the Bodhisattva's practices. If you go to quiet places, your mind will naturally become capable and stable. This is the tradition of many great masters of the Nyingma school. At first, they would practice preliminary practices, then meditate on calm abiding for 4 to 5 years, so that the mind could basically be gently adjusted. Once the mind reached a certain level of stability, at that point you could be taught the direct introduction of Dzogchen for ease. But nowadays, in some places, perhaps some of our masters' conduct is somewhat different from the traditions of the great masters of the past. At the beginning, you don't need to repair the additional lines, nor receive any empowerments, and you are given instructions for Dzogchen direct introduction. This disciple feels more comfortable meditating on the main practice, cutting through all afflictions at once. The guru feels, I am qualified to transmit Dzogchen. How amazing I am. Both in this setting complete the main practice. But because the preliminaries are not solid, after some time has passed, the disciple may gradually begin to develop afflictions, and the Vajramaster is swayed by various circumstances. This is a real possibility. So we should follow the methods of Vajrayana Buddhism, and especially to have a stable preliminary practice. Practicing repeatedly, finally, your foundation is solid foundation, then whatever you build on top of it will, as a result, be very sturdy. But if you don't do this, and instead build on ice, for example, seems meaningful, but in reality, it is not stable. It's mentioned if you go to a quiet place The human mind is generally quite easy to direct. And the main reason for this is clearly explained in detail below, like those who practice Chöd. When they cultivate the intention to trample on suffering, Chöd is a very advanced practice of discipline, but even such a high-level practice as Chöd at the very beginning is unsuitable crowds. So what do? In order to trample on suffering and afflictions, to intend at first, they abandon relying on the harm caused by people in noisy environments to practice. If you use people, harm from enemies or crowds, as a Chöd practitioner, your practice may not be very successful. By comparison, going to a quiet charnel ground or a fearsome place and training on spiritual disturbances, reason is the same. Relatively speaking, the harm caused by people in crowds, for a Chöd practitioner, hard to make this part of the path. If you go to a charnel ground, if you visit dangerous places, places with ominous lands, ominous waters, or ominous mountains, places where fierce spirits quietly stir up trouble, then quiet places are better. So for practitioners of Chöd, those at such a high level, indeed, they need quiet places. For example, in India, in the past, Padmasambhava, with accomplished Vajrayana masters, when they reached a certain stage, they went to charnel grounds for asceticism. They would first avoid crowds. Once their ascetic practices are successful, subduing spirits and demons, returning to society, among people there are afflictions such as desire for the opposite sex and anger toward the same sex. All sorts of afflictions can arise among people, whereas compared to that, dealing with spirits and demons is a bit easier. Chöd practitioners visit quiet places. This is the reason behind it, truly. So here it says to go to quiet, fearsome charnel grounds, to the charnel ground. Earlier, our Dharma friends would often go to charnel ground, but we advise not to go to charnel grounds casually. Otherwise, charnel grounds are not really so, sometimes if your practice isn't strong enough, charnel grounds can still carry some inauspiciousness, some defilement. If you truly want to tread upon suffering, if lacking realization or Chöd, and lack a certain ability to protect yourself, you can go there. If you go casually or curiously, Guru Padmasambhava visited 8 charnel grounds. 8 charnel grounds. Charnel ground might end up getting sick. There's that possibility. So in the beginning, get stable first before going about our place, including Larungar's sky burial. Many people often go there thinking it's a tourist spot. This kind of behavior, perspective, and mindset is fundamentally incorrect. I heard there was a time when many tourists came holding cameras, lining up and waiting there. Later, when others carried the corpse over, everyone started applauding. And some of those tourists did as well. Maybe they don't even truly understand the most basic rules and moral principles. Whether it's a sky burial in Tibetan area, these are both very solemn, truly incredibly and almost overwhelmingly heavy places. A family member has passed away, and the pain in the hearts of those sending off the body must be absolutely, truly extraordinary. When we send off our own loved ones, sent off my father and mother, went to charnel ground. But that day, the feeling I had going to the charnel ground are completely different. If someone applauded or took photos, that would actually be a really, truly very disrespectful act. Han Chinese culture says to honor the dead. So the dead should be treated with respect. From a cultural perspective, it's also like this. And from the perspective of faith, it is even more so. That's why we are unwilling to make sky burials open to the public. There's nothing worth seeing, nothing to film, and nothing worth photographing, regardless of what kind of person, as seen in movies and TV. Even the most beautiful women or most handsome men, when they become corpses, it truly is actually quite frightening. Jetsun Milarepa, the renowned Tibetan yogi and poet, also once said in his teachings that the corpse that frightens on sight was originally just our current physical body. Actually, when you really think about it, there's absolutely nothing particularly rare, unusual, or even special at all about a corpse. But many travelers think, oh, the charnel ground at Larong is very famous, and feel they must go see it and take some photos. In reality, the construction of the charnel ground, this is part of culture. It is a solemn expression of respect for the deceased. You could put it that way. But it's not that we treat it as a tourist attraction. Treating it as something everyone is excited about or seeing it as rare is actually disrespectful to life and to tradition. We would never go to a funeral home with camera. Why does this corpse look good? If I take a photo, well, maybe, I suppose it could be his family members would be extremely upset. So in the future, perhaps regarding that place, of course. Now, with the pandemic situation, the charnel ground is closed off better this way. Came from Luhuo 2 days ago. At Serba checkpoint, the controls were still very strict. All incoming vehicles and people, all to simply let them go back. No one was allowed to enter from there. During the pandemic, this is probably a good thing. Generally speaking, we also prefer it this way. If the charnel ground is reopened in the future, or if it is turned into a tourist attraction, I don't agree. But I'm not sure about other things. I want to emphasize that this is simply my own personal opinion. This is what he says here in this particular section. And then it continues on to say the following: all hardship and suffering do no harm to the mind, but even though these experiences might seem negative at first, they can actually help us develop thoughts of happiness because they allow add words. That is, we need to learn to eliminate all appearances of internal illnesses and external enemies, spirits, including harsh words and all unwanted situations such as these, and also bring about pleasant situations. So, what does this passage really mean? Briefly, this is a summary of what was said earlier. All adverse conditions and suffering do not harm your mind, but they can also sometimes give rise to happiness and joy. So, what do we all need to learn then? We need to block or eliminate all internal illnesses and these external spirits as well as thoughts we do not want. These need to be blocked, these need to be eliminated, whether it's all our internal illnesses or spirits and enemies. We want all of them to be pleasant, to be situations we are happy with. We must learn to create such circumstances. This statement is very important. What does it mean? If we transform everything into the path, internal, external, things we used to think, I don't like this, I don't want this, but now at this point we shouldn't reject them. When appear, you should think this is an opportunity. For example, if you are sick, it's good. Now is truly my chance to practice the Dharma. Oh, that's good. I'm really pleased. I'm happy. Whenever spirits appear or someone hurts you verbally, you should feel truly glad and really happy. Actually, if your practice is a bit better, this is very important. Things are calm. You don't really feel much. But once something intense happens, when you're provoked, you get a kind of inspiration. This kind of inspiration is quite rare. Think practice is good, but if someone says, you stole my things, you're just really ugly. When someone directly wounds your heart like that, you instantly have an emotional reaction. If your practice is better, you can push through and immediately transform it into something useful on the path. But if you can't do that, and you already lack a sense of security inside, insecure people, even the slightest words can be extremely hurtful and damaging to you. So in general, psychology as a field, some people have sense abundance. Others speak, it doesn't affect them. Ratnagotra Vibhaga says, don't we all possess Buddha nature? If we have Buddha nature, then if someone says, you look ugly, I don't feel ugly, I look good. If others slander you, those words don't affect me. I am the same. If we have inner poverty, if insecure, if we have no confidence, then you will feel especially lonely inside. And people like this tend to be very self-abasing, often in their behavior. A little bit for you, even if it's not directed at you, but said to someone else. But think, oh, they're talking about me. Now everything is over for me, because you are naturally lonely and lack a sense of security. What is the key point here? If we lack confidence and security in our hearts, such people are very easily hurt and easily fall apart. If we truly have a sense of abundance, no matter what, when you meet, even when great suffering befalls you, you'll think, oh, this is truly an opportunity to practice. Ordinary practitioners, for example, when they have plenty to eat and wear, when conditions are perfect and everything fits, now is my chance to practice. I think so. But a good practitioner, when nothing works, now's time to practice. There's a really significant difference here. For us, ordinary practitioners, I receive my living allowance today and I have some money. The house doesn't leak. Everything is fine. I practice, all the favorable conditions are here, exactly. Mindset of average practitioner. I feel today I'm healthy, so my meditation should go well now. Today, I should practice, well, the sun is shining too. But if your practice is a bit more advanced, when nothing goes right today, when everything is unlucky, when this doesn't work, that doesn't work, and misfortunes never come singly, problems pile, you realize, now's your chance. That is the action of a truly great practitioner. So I think that in Buddhism, indeed, sometimes it is possible to consider that in any given context or situation, there may exist a significant number of, among the methods of adjusting psychology, they may not necessarily have them in their possession at this particular moment in time. I think I mentioned this the other day as well. Nowadays, many Western scholars, when experiencing mental changes, immediately seek out professional psychological counselors. But in fact, they themselves still feel very insecure inside. They suffer, still blind, teaching others certain important and foundational principles to others. We are not professional, but I have indeed asked some Western psychological counselors. Counselors begin with inheritance. There are still some differences. For example, many Western psychologists today, seeking a lineage master like Samantabhadra Tathagata, they often look to influential figures in psychology, such as Freud, Jung, and Adler, for guidance and inspiration. The major schools are like this. But these figures lived about 100 years ago, around Jung's time. Before that, true psychology could be considered a blank slate. There was no real lineage. So what are they like, for example, nowadays? For example, Adler and his school of thought, in a certain sense, can generally be considered quite positive and optimistic. When people experience pain, depression, or anxiety, his approach always maintains a positive and hopeful outlook. You should be able to realize your dream. This philosophy is taught. From this perspective, it is actually very good. Because of this, people in the West feel this kind of psychological guidance is very good. There are many believers, but from a certain perspective, actually, for example, Adler himself, his own childhood and personal experiences were also, in fact, very pessimistic. He wrote, which is actually quite a famous book, his personal experience. He was also insecure when he was young. Later on in life, he also encountered all kinds of obstacles, lacked confidence, worked to surpass himself. He felt he achieved transcendence. When he presented this to others in the group, many people thought it was quite impressive. Buddhist view. With the true state and principles of enlightenment, there should definitely be a certain gap. Adler-Jung words, they should be considered Freud's main disciples. In fact, at the very beginning, Freud valued him greatly, indeed, and firmly believed that Jung would indeed be his true successor in the future. Because Jung had knowledge of Christian theology, in dream interpretation, he had a unique approach. Freud wrote The Interpretation of Dreams, which is a very famous book. In this book, the discussion is about creation of dreams and dream origins, including the dreams we have now, truly. Some of it comes from past karma, some from life experiences, some from our present individual, everyday behaviors and actions during the day, and so on. But as for the true inheritance, in the beginning, it was Jung who received it. The International Psychoanalytical Association insisted that Jung must be the present. But later they had ideological conflicts. Since Freud, from a young age, valued sexual relationships, he believed that the foundation of all psychological knowledge, important issues, are directly related to sex. So throughout his process of analysis, including humanity's Oedipal tendencies or desires for the opposite sex, and many other aspects, he believed that the most crucial thing in human society is sex. But Jung, perhaps influenced by theology, later did not acknowledge this. Because he didn't acknowledge it, the two of them developed major ideological differences. Jungian Psychology in Tibetan Buddhism is a book. This book also references some of Jung's ideas. Of course, we believe that although Jung was quite deeply influenced by the Tibetan Book of the Dead, he himself also said that this book has always personally accompanied him. He said quite excitingly and with genuine enthusiasm that many of my discoveries and ideas, as well as my own thoughtful and constructive insights from this book, he directly praised the Tibetan Book of the Dead in his writing. This book is truly admirable, but I think that much of Jung's own work, including theology, and some of his dream interpretations and his theories about foreknowledge of the future, he likely didn't study some areas deeply, but was merely influenced to a certain extent. But regardless, later on, Jung's views were still different from Freud's theories in several important ways. He believed sexual relationships, although in human society, do have influence, but they are not truly fundamental, nor are they everything. So later, as time went on, in Freud's later years, in the later years of his life, he was especially disappointed. One was Adler, whose ideas also differed from his own. Adler's thinking was different from his, because Freud believed that many phenomena, including various dream interpretation, he thought were caused by past habits leading to the present. So many things, whether directly related to one's memories or not, are related to past habits. But Adler believed they were related to the future because he was an insecure person. If he could be confident, positive, and strive in the future, then his original sense of inferiority would change. So the two of them, as you might expect, had different perspectives on some points. You could definitely say that There were, as you might expect, some changes between them, Freud's later years. Although his two most prominent top students did not inherit his tradition, both of them had different ideas. He created some original works on his own by himself. Of course, in a certain sense, it helps the Western psychology community still extremely creative. But from another perspective, indeed, many people feel that a lot of his ideas did not come from realization or practice or from understanding the true nature of all phenomena or from knowing the nature of the mind. So where did they come from? They came from analyzing many people with mental illnesses or psychosis and from analyzing their own experiences. That's how these ideas were formed. So they have a rather famous theory, which is called what? That everyone in the world has mental illness. It's just that the symptoms are different. In this sense, similar to Buddhism's idea of the world being full of people plagued by the disease of delusion and madness. So perhaps these views are somewhat alike, but they probably didn't analyze it from that perspective. As Buddhists, we neither stand on the side of other schools of psychology, nor do we in any way rely exclusively on the Buddhist school. We simply take a fair and impartial perspective. If we go to experience and practice, perhaps you will truly understand what Buddhism really teaches. In fact, whether it's the disturbances caused by discursive thoughts or many other things, you might discover something relatively new. As I was reading, I saw in the Shurangama Sutra, it clearly states you should first awaken, truly awaken, and not enter the endless cycle of rebirth. If you remain confused and unaware of the truth, and continue to lack understanding, you will inevitably fall into the Avicii hell. I remember that's what the Shurangama Sutra says. If we use wisdom to analyze and be aware, wake up, don't enter rebirth. We will not fall into samsara. But if we continue to be confused and ignorant in our understanding all the time, then perhaps even in this very life, many inverted external circumstances and warped thoughts will prevent you from attaining freedom. In the next life, it's very likely you'll fall into the Avicii hell. This is possible. So here, we need to talk about this. Its absolute necessity is like this in many situations. Since it is reasonable, this particular phrase, as it currently stands, might possibly need to be changed or revised. If we want to reach such a state, this sentence should be changed to. In other words, to reach such a state, since reasonable, this sentence should be revised. If we want to reach this state, then we need to restrain ourselves and regard those harms as faults. We need to make our utmost effort to genuinely regard them in our hearts as virtues. If we want to reach such a state, then things like illness are not something to avoid or reject. One feels happy for and likes them. To reach such a state, we should do our best to restrain ourselves and view these potential and significant harms as serious faults, whether it's illness or enemies. These harms, regarding them as virtues is very important. If you really want to achieve this, if you get sick, or hear harsh words, or if others harm you, you should view these as something positive. This is great. Really good for me. Don't see them as harm. This is really quite bad for me. Don't look at them this way. Why is that? Because whether something is a pleasing object or not ultimately comes down to a kind of attachment in your mind. Are these things lovable or unlovable after all? In reality, it's the way your mind clings to things. If you think something's lovable, it's lovable. If you think it is unlovable, then it is unlovable. In fact, there is no truly existent external object. This is indeed a method for us to habituate our minds. Next, he gives an analogy. For example, for someone who often regards noise and bustle as faults, no matter if you have pleasures or companions, the more prosperous they get, the more troubled you feel. Some of us don't like crowds. don't want blessings or wealth. In this case, you see noise and bustle and you interpret these as faults or shortcomings. If you have money, you feel miserable. When people come around, you also feel very annoyed. If business is good, you're not happy. When there are a lot of people around, you're also unhappy. It's an external situation, but you just really don't like the noise and all the bustle. On the contrary, when you have material enjoyments, companions, or fame, you feel very annoyed inside. Now that I have fame and money, what should I do? For those who see noise and bustle as beneficial in their daily, they envy prosperity and wealth too. Whether it's fame, wealth, or prosperity, this is a good word. Then everyone just feels that way. Now, when I interact with leaders in the secular world, they are envious of others' money. Someone became deputy director, or when someone drives a luxury car, how great that is. But as a practitioner, all this fame, status, and wealth are things he particularly looks down upon. There is no meaning, although it's an external object. For example, fame, luxury cars, luxury houses, the principle is the same. But if someone regards these as virtuous achievements, to him, it's like, wow, this is so great. Now I drive a car, now I have such a family, I'm especially happy. But from perspective of a practitioner, the same circumstances are seen as faults. In the same way, when it comes to our illness, for those turning practice into the path, now I'm sick, how wonderful, that's great. Now I'm being slandered by others, show good. That's how he would think. One who's mentally fragile, I'm sick, what should I do? Will I die this time? Scared of doctors. One of our lamas said, at Huaxi Hospital, I simply don't dare to see a doctor because these doctors are really bad. What if they actually diagnose me with something as serious as late-stage cancer? Then I'd be terrified, I couldn't handle it. Every time, I just don't dare to see a doctor at all. If your spiritual practice is good, why late-stage cancer be good? At the time of my death, I can properly make aspirations and prayers. So for everyone, it's really the same thing, but how you accept it and the way you accept it are entirely and fundamentally different from each other in every aspect. All right. Let's stop here for now. For those who see chaos as beneficial, they long for and deeply envy the wealth, the prosperity, and the glory that others possess. What is it? Oh, by the way, we have not recited the lineage today. All right, let's get ready and now let's calmly recite it together, just as we practiced.
Tambo loptin dunzer jiangchang gombach chiete dunzi xepter dungur tang nirmun so galabzo de zerwe zhongen mangwa shen go ta zhangnin longshu laptin be semchir mangbu shirp rnyokshang rnyokshang gometan chigni lamlan chorwa da deli zhanyang gyang wi yirkin na so kim chognin rojang Wenbirne se teter mepe rikba shinda tangla, di wenga lop koror labi shirde, xchoyerar nang dungar tozi ki yifshid zhongwa na, tangbo ndunzi nang de mir no pala tenne zhongwa vjikde, tachud ghanyansa wenba lhanji chumchir la tenne, zhongwa xur shibi jimtsin yang da yimbar fshato, mdur dunar kengan dungar tamchi ki simla mangno parmaz, Datag nikib dewi yedn chid njin tabar shepala nanga natang shig janji tamgan la soba tetag mundo per naban charab kagde yungur naba konan charguba la lobgu te gungwa la nyen se tetag kyonji shuksuf tawa gagchang yondun suf tawa mbapa tamchi ki flabgu de yer te gung yegung yimman lun zinzir la tagbi shirde Huernan dunzi nyingmi ki shogni mangda sambarnam kordang longshu su chizim jepa te zamda sannang chejang. Dunzi la payondar tawanam ngatang jepa la yirmun.
Sonam dayi tamsa gogari atona yibe jana kashi jirgana jirano chupai jubun zonen roa doa Bandara
Bandara Padma Sada Bandara Padma Sada